Why are there ridges on Reese's peanut butter cups? Probably so they never slip from her hands. Can you imagine? I'd lose it. Luckily, Reese's thought about that. Wonder what else they think about. Probably chocolate and peanut butter.
Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies to same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at lowes.com/lowest price guarantee.
To the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome in. It's Friday, June 27th. We are back. Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew, flexing on the entire company Betz.
I mean, dude, come on. I get that it's the middle of summer. You know, I think we're just under 70 days away from NFL football, which, thank goodness. But yeah, dude, we're working corporate right now, toes in the sand, just not a care in the world. They literally don't even know what's happening this week in Fantasy Footballers, world and headquarters. We are basically Fantasy Footballer and headquarters this week because, yeah, corporate's just out there drinking their hand, just having a grand old time. But not you and I, Kyle. We are grinding. We are putting out content. We are working. And that's more than they can say.
Yeah, right now, footballers are on vacation week. So I don't know if people realize this, but Andy and Mike are in Hawaii, and they're technically at the same resort, which is hilarious because we're getting random updates in our Slack channel of like, hey, here's this guy over here at the table, and it's just like a picture of Mike's backside. Not Jason...
Not his butt, just
not his butt.
Back. He said backside.
Yeah. Mike's butt.
There's so many pictures of Mike's butt in Slack right now. It's so weird, man.
And then on the other side of the world is Jason in Europe. I mean, they could not be further away. The company is misaligned. And it seems like you are trying to stage a coup during this week, a little takeover.
I mean, hey, if you haven't listened yet, Foot Clan, you might want to check out the Footcast this week. That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
No, it's a fun week for us to try out a few things, see if the company notices. We're not stealing from the company like other members of this staff. Like we would never do that.
No. But
yeah, we are working. Betz and I, nobody knows this. This is a little inside conversation between Betz and I. But because Betz and I are remote, when we record, we put this little icon up on our Slack that's a red dot. It says we're recording. And it's like a power move from Betz and I saying, everybody else in the company, I don't know what you guys are doing, but Betz and I are recording right now. So don't even think about asking us any questions. The problem is we're recording on the East Coast, and most of the company's on vacation, so it's like Betz and I are flexing on nobody.
That's correct. But here we are.
Yep. On this episode, we are going to go through our NFL awards projections. So we're looking at the markets as of late June and giving you some of our favorite long shot bets, ones that we're considering based on the projections that are in the Ultimate Draft Kit, like, hey, who's going to lead the league in passing yards and receiving yards and rushing yards, but also going through the criteria of what actually matters for these awards. For instance, the Comeback Player of the Year award. You can't suck anymore. You can't come back from sucking.
That's factually correct. That's not the actual verbiage from the Associated Press, but if you remember last year, there was a kind of a controversy in the award if you were following it closely. Sam Darnold, of course, surprised everybody, had a great season with the Vikings, and the problem with that was that he didn't come back from any major injury or anything like that.
He came back from the grave.
Basically. He came back from just being terrible for years. And what's silly about that, and if you kind of understood that, you were able to see in the betting markets, like, they're still lining this as if this is if this guy is capable of winning the award. He was not even really capable based off the new Associated Press, criteria. So I love the awards markets, man. NFL sides and totals, impossible to beat. I mean, there are select very few people that can do it. I'm not one of them. We think we have an edge in props. The edge year by year, I think, is getting smaller. But the biggest edge in NFL betting, in my opinion, is the awards market, because even just comparing books, site to site, there are massive differences in price. So this is one spot where we think we have a decent edge, and obviously we're betting long shots, so we should expect to lose. But every couple of years we like to hit one of these, and hopefully we're right. And along those same lines too, like thinking about this as a kind of similar approach to like best ball, we like to build out a portfolio approach. So what we say now in June, we
bet everyone.
Just bet everything and everyone, and you'll definitely win. We might change our stance in September, October, November when we have information on what's happening on the field. I'll call myself out here real quick. Last year, I thought it was, hey man, this might be good value. Like if Anthony Richardson hits, if they can win some games, 50-1 for MVP. I mean, that's, I've made worse bets. In like week 3, I cashed out. I was like, this is not happening, right? So you kind of get a little sprinkle across the board at certain prices we like, and then you can adjust as the year goes on, make new wagers. It's a really fun award. It's a fun bet to track throughout the season.
Did you tell Monica, your wife, that, hey, I won this money on Anthony Richardson week 3? I'm not telling her how much you lost.
I did not.
No. I'm going to hit a button that we don't usually get to hit on this show. That was a mic announcement. I'm going to hit it one more time. Little announcement at the top of the show. We really like you guys, and we think, for the most part, the listeners of the show have created a really good community. You're part of a lot of what we do on Discord. So we're asking you if you can leave a 5-star review on Spotify, which you can only rate. On Apple, if you leave a 5-star review and give us, a little comment on there, we will give one of you guys a Ballers t-shirt, which we have a pretty big selection over at shopballers.com, ones that Betz and I wear a lot. Sometimes you'll see on the Dynasty show. But if you like the show, it's giving you value, if you enjoy our banter, if you feel like you've enjoyed the community also in Discord, then make sure you leave a review. We only ask for those like once or twice a year. And at this point in the off season, we thought it was a good time to, reward a couple of people. So we will give out some Ballers t-shirts if you leave a review. We'll draw a couple of those. 5-star review on Apple. Say good things, and it helps us out a little bit. Also, if you want all of our rankings, I did a little update earlier this week. I know Betz did as well on our best ball rankings. You can get all of those at ultimatedraftkit.com. But we're going to try to spend as much time as we can in this episode talking about awards.
Prop it like it's hot.
So we're going to go through a couple of different categories, break down the trends, and then look at the current markets and say who are some players. We'll probably make some cases that I haven't even heard you talk about before, so surprise me if you want to, Matthew. But let's first talk about how these awards happen, because there is a panel of media members. So I don't get to vote on it like, the MLB All-Star Game, which takes place in hot Atlanta.
Ooh,
in
exciting.
A couple of weeks.
That'll be the biggest game played in Atlanta this year.
Whoa, watch it, bub. Watch it. I'll be there that weekend at a couple of different things. But media members, last year there was 49 media members who voted on this for the AP Awards, including some fun names that got added. Tom Brady was this past season. Rich Gannon, former MVP. And Mina Kimes of ESPN was another name that was also added this past year. And the way that you vote for awards is not just, I like this player. It's that you select a top 5 for each award, and they get points. First place is 10 points, second is 5, and then 3, 2, 1. It's a weighted system. It was, I don't know if you saw this big news item, but after the awards were announced, their ballots were also released this year, and all of the people did not know, all the voters did not know that theirs was going to be released. So the biggest news from this past year awards was, oh wow, Josh Allen won over Lamar. And that was kind of like different than what we thought going into it. But it is important to understand how these awards are weighted, and it is important to understand who is voting on this. It's not just, it's media members. And there is certain sways and trends over time that we can pay attention to. But let's start with the big one, MVP award. And over the last couple of years, it's kind of been a quarterback award all the way going back to 2012, which was Adrian Peterson. It's been a quarterback award. Josh Allen was last year, Lamar, Mahomes, Rodgers for 2 years, and Lamar and Mahomes the years before that. So any high-level thoughts you have about the MVP award?
Yeah, so with this award, like you said, I mean, it's quarterback or bust for me. I'm not wasting bets on guys like McCaffrey or Saquon or Bijan or any of those guys that you'll see in the pricing. You know, Saquon had a historic season last year and, you know, got votes, but obviously was never really in contention to win. King Henry a couple years ago, another incredible season, didn't really even have a chance. So to me, it's quarterback or bust. And when we look at what the criteria is to win these awards, it's very much a team level award. So, you know, in fantasy, we can get some hits from guys that are on bad teams sometimes. If they run enough, if they have enough, production, that works for us in our game of fantasy. In this award, it's the best teams. You've got to be able to win 10, 11, 12, 13 games. You almost have to win your division. You're usually the 1 or the 2 seed in the AFC or the NFC, depending on which quarterback wins those. So the opportunities to bet in this market are not super fun, in my opinion, because it's kind of the guys that you would expect at the top. It's the guys playing for the best teams, right? Like Lamar and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Pat Mahomes and Jaden Daniels. There's not really a lot of surprises that are at the top of the board for me. And I think it's priced mostly correctly, in my opinion. That's how I'm approaching it this year anyway. The other thing that I found is that it is strongly tied to EPA per play, EPA per dropback. There's a pretty significant correlation there. And it's not that surprising considering we use that stat a lot, looking at team level success and quarterback play and all those things. But just if you're looking for another metric to kind of tie into that, that is one that I look at as well. So yeah, you've got to win a bunch of games and you've got to be, in contention for the 1 or the 2 seed in your conference.
Do you want to explain to me why the Eagles haven't won this award since 1960 and Norm Van Brocklin?
Norm, what a guy, man. What a guy. Kyle, it's because we're more of a team level type of situation. We don't need a camaraderie. Star. It's just about the team, man. It's all about the team.
I feel like you guys have had stars.
Yeah, they've had some.
Yeah, well, Matt Ryan 2016, what a season, by the way. That was a fun one. Not the end, though. All right, so it's a quarterback award. Right now, Lamar is the betting favorite at plus 550. Then it's Josh Allen at also the same. Burrow, Mahomes, Daniels, Hurts, Herbert, CJ Stroud, and Baker and Jordan Love are kind of there as the next couple of tiers. Any initial thoughts? Because I always tell people I sprinkle the long shots before the season. And then when it gets to week 6, I kind of make a week 6-ish. I kind of look at the market and say, hey, I feel like people are undervaluing this quarterback. This team could go on a run. Because it really is the market of MVP is what have you done lately? Where a couple years ago, Brock Purdy was the betting favorite to win the award. And then it shifted where Lamar won it. So there's these different waves in the NFL season that I personally bet. So as of right now, what are you thinking? I know Purdy is one of the long shot guys we like.
Yeah, we've already given out Purdy for MVP. We talked about that in our win totals episode, which we like San Francisco over 10.5. They got the easiest strength of schedule this year. And if they're able to push for 10, 11 wins, win the NFC West, and be in contention for the top 1 or 2 seed, which I think is a realistic possibility for a Niners team that was just destroyed by injury last year. If they just get the right side of variance there, bounce back a little bit, to me, Purdy relative to what Vegas expects for team level success is mispriced, where he's 30-1 on DraftKings, the best price I saw. So, you look at like Caleb's above him, Kyler Murray's above him, Stroud, I guess the price is fine, but like, I think from a team level standpoint, what Vegas is projecting as far as like, how could these teams perform? They're up there in the Super Bowl odds. In terms of the most wins market, which is available on DraftKings, they have the 5th shortest odds to have the most wins in the NFL, and yet the quarterback is just so far down in pricing. So to me, it's just a mismatch based off of all those markets. So Purdy, I'm already in on. I know you are as well at 30-1 on DraftKings. That's probably my favorite bet still available out there. So for me, that is definitely an official play.
Yeah, the easiest way to walk through this is to go through and say who could win their division, who could get to, 11, 12 wins or more, and kind of go through those, and you can start crossing out certain names. So I like Caleb Williams. I think that he could surprise. I cannot see them being the outright division winner when there are 3 other teams that I just like more in that division. So he's one of those names that's like, I could see it, but he's kind of already like priced in as if he's going to be a breakout candidate. So I don't find a ton of value at plus 2,800 from somebody like Caleb Williams. Now, there was a formula for a couple of years. It's like, who is going to be the sophomore quarterback who breaks out? The Mahomes, Lamar. So he does fit that. But I'm just going down the list and just thinking like, who else can win their division? I think Baker, they won the division 4 straight years. Baker is interesting, but I also think we've hit a lot of ceiling outcomes, and there is a little bit more variables with them changing OCs this year. Justin Herbert, I'm a sucker, but I feel like I wish I got him at a better price.
Me too.
Than plus 1,800.
Yeah, I was actually kind of excited to maybe give out that as a play, but like you said, I feel like it's kind of already priced in. Now, it's still a long shot, right? 18-1. It's no guarantee, obviously. So if you wanted to make that bet, I think it's fine. But I was hoping to maybe get him kind of in the Purdy Caleb range of like 28, 30-1, something like that. So it does kind of feel like it's priced in. So it's fine. I don't love it. I think Purdy's probably the best value for me. I'll also throw out, I want to get your thoughts, Kyle, on Jordan Love for MVP.
Oh, I'm in.
25-1. You look at the Packers, obviously last year when you think about their season, offensively, it was defined by Josh Jacobs, right? Had a ton of rushing scores. I think he scored in every single game from week 8 on or something ridiculous like that. Like the last 8 games of the season or something. He was just scoring every week. If you get that touchdown production to maybe kind of come back to Jordan Love a little bit, and he can push, for 35 passing touchdowns, which 2 years ago he threw for 32. I think it's possible if you push for 4,000 yards, 35 touchdowns, and the Packers can win 12 games and win it is a tough division, don't get me wrong. And that's kind of why you're getting the long shot odds here, but I trust the head coach. I think Jordan Love has shown in his 2 years, full years as a starter, he is a guy who's very boom bust. And in this market, like we're buying into the upside cases anyway. Just for context, 2 years ago, we already saw a spike in production, right? Had over 4,000 yards, had 32 passing touchdowns. This team can definitely make the playoffs, obviously, and push for a top couple, 1 or 2 seed, I think. So for me, I think Jordan Love is a play. And I mentioned earlier, looking at EPA per play has been kind of predictive in this market in some ways. Over the last 3 years combined, among quarterbacks that had at least 600 plays in their game logs, he's been 8th in EPA per play. So when Jordan Love has been out there, he's been very good. And I think this is one that you can get into here with the Packers. I also want to just point out quickly and just remind everybody, last year, the pass game took a huge hit with how affected Jordan Love was from injury. Remember that week 1 game in Brazil against the Eagles? He got injured on the very last play of the game, missed a couple of starts. And then when he came back, like a month later into the season, he had a groin injury. So the play calling, I think, was affected by all of those things. Per Fantasy Points data, they put this out on their Twitter. In the games where he was healthy, they had a plus 3.6% pass rate over expectation. That would have been 7th in the NFL. So if we think that maybe this could be more pass heavy than the market thinks, there's upside for Jordan Love. So I know you're on him in best ball and fantasy. I think this 25-1 price is pretty good on DraftKings.
Yeah, I'm looking at their schedule. Just remember, they finished 3rd place in their division, despite being a solid team. It was just the Lions and Vikings hit these crazy outcomes. But 3rd place games are against Carolina, at Arizona, and at Denver. They're also, I think, going to be in more shootouts than people realize. They have some AFC North battles. They're also playing the NFC East. In my schedule adjusted wins, I actually had them at 9.25 wins. That was tied with the Lions in the division. So I do like that one a lot. I have a ton of exposure in best ball. And he's lived above 5% on his TD rate both years. That's very rare to be able to see that. So I think he's priced fine. I do wish you more got it in that, 30-1 type range. I'm going through the rest of these names and just saying who else can win their division. So Dak Prescott is interesting, but I think there's other categories that I will attack with Dak, like him. We'll talk later about him leading the league in passing yards. Matthew Stafford, could they win their division for the 2nd year in a row? Sure, but we're kind of betting on Purdy and the Niners there. What about Drake May? Could I interest you ever on this podcast to talk about Drake May? 45-1.
This one feels like the bet you make, and you're like, I got it. I got my money in good. This is a nice value play. But deep down in your heart, there's like a 0.01% chance it actually wins.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I've made worse wagers in my life, Kyle. I think I'm just going to take a ton of May in fantasy this year and play it that way. I don't think I'll take this one. I do think the Patriots will be better than the market thinks. I mean, their win total, depending on what books you look at, like bounce around from 7.5 to 8.5. Like Vegas does think this team is going to be competitive. So can they win 9-10 games? I think it's possible. Could they win 13 games and like be the 1 seed in the AFC? I would be absolutely floored. So, I mean, when you're looking at the Bills and the Ravens and all those teams, like it's hard to see it. So for me, that is the bet that I will not get trapped into this year. I'm going to save my money and place it elsewhere, but I get where you're coming from with that price.
Yeah, and just the other value ones that are on the board, Trevor Lawrence, if you think Liam Cohen works magic and they just have this crazy outlier season with 40 touchdowns, I will be betting against that. Tua, we'll talk about more later. I think he's mispriced in some other markets. I do see a couple of sophomore quarterbacks way down there that, people aren't expecting. Maybe they come through. Michael Penix, 60-1. Falcons offense is good. But I think J.J. McCarthy at 100-1 is a wild bet. But we've seen how good this passing offense has been no matter who the quarterback is. So you're more betting on the team for the Vikings.
Yeah, real quick on J.J. McCarthy. We don't really know how good he is in the pros, right? Like, we've never seen him play a snap outside of a couple preseason snaps, so nobody knows, and that's why he's priced where he is. But just, again, this is a quarterback award. It's a team-level award. Where the Vikings are in the futures markets for other, markets and things like that, this is just completely mispriced. If he's the quarterback of that team, it almost feels like it's still priced as if people aren't sure if he's the starter this year. We had the whole Darnold thing in the offseason. Like, clearly it's his team. Now, I think it's highly unlikely he wins. But at 100-1, you don't have to be right often at all for this to be, a solid bet. $10 to win 1,000. It's like, okay, how bad could it be? So I think this is a play for me just to kind of build out the portfolio. And on other books, like he's 75-1 on FanDuel, 80-1 on Caesar. So you're getting a way off market price on DraftKings. It's Kevin O'Connell. It's a consensus top 10 offensive line. It's arguably a top 5 pass catching group in the league. Like, I just trust Kevin O'Connell to put him in a position to succeed. And considering he's the same price as like Russell Wilson, Anthony Richardson, we already talked about running backs being an issue here. He has longer odds than Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, I just think it's a misprice. So again, one of those that you'll feel good about making that probably won't win. But Kyle, I am betting this. So yes, give me JJ McCarthy 100-1.
Yeah, and like we said, we'll update you guys about MVP awards and what we're betting throughout the season. Maybe we'll throw out a couple right before in September, but I know we'll update in October and November as the markets change. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
In golf, precision is everything, on and off the course. PGA of America chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business for smooth operations and seamless transactions. Together, we enhance ticketing and concessions for better fan experiences from gate to green. This is pro-level efficiency. This is PGA of America with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
Look, if you've got prescriptions, the Walmart app is your place to manage them. Transfer your scripts, refill them, and have them delivered straight to you. Migraines managed. Allergies alleviated. Dermatology, Derma delivered. Ding dong. Is that your pizza? Nope. Walmart pharmacy delivery with a refill. Switch to Walmart and manage your prescriptions in the app. The Walmart you thought you knew is now new. Delivery not available for all prescriptions. Exclusions apply.
Our favorite award to talk about on the show, the Offensive Player of the Year. A couple years ago, if you remember, Justin Jefferson winning fed our families for, a week? 2 weeks. We have kids, so they eat.
It didn't last long, but it helped. It helped.
And then, CeeDee Lamb was one a couple years ago that any other year, like he technically had better stats than Jefferson, and yet it didn't matter.
Yeah. I think we've got a good pulse, I think, on this one.
Yeah. So the Offensive Player of the Year, we can talk about some of the trends here, but we look at this the exact opposite as not really a quarterback award. Going back to 2015, the two quarterbacks that won were Mahomes, his crazy 2018 year where he won everything, Cam Newton way back in the day, and Matt Ryan, who I mentioned earlier was incredible that season, was just blazing like the sun. But since then, it's really been who's the best running back or wide receiver. Now, last year, Saquon won this award, but you could have easily given it to Jamar Chase for winning the Triple Crown. So it kind of comes down to me of which running back or wide receiver is going to have an outlier type of season. So that's what we're trying to predict here.
Exactly. Yeah. And just for context, like looking at the most recent running back award winners in this category, it's the guys you kind of mentioned: Saquon, Adrian Peterson, Todd Gurley, Derrick Henry, CMC. Like they kind of need these huge seasons. You need 1,500 plus rushing yards. You need 15-ish or more rushing touchdowns. You need team level success, 10 wins. And at wide receiver, like you need a wide receiver who can push 170 plus targets, easily get over 1,500 yards, double-digit touchdowns. Like you need these outlier performances. And so in this market, you start to like whittle it down and think about that. It's like, who are the ceiling guys that you can point to? And again, it's a really tough sell on the long shots here because there's so many talented wide receivers in our game. The running backs are awesome. Like I don't have a lot of long shots that I like. I'll give out a couple here in a second. But truthfully, like I think the best bets are close to the top of the board in this market.
Yeah, it's kind of priced in where you look at the receivers that can hit 1,500 receiving yards or see some of those crazy target totals. Like you mentioned, Jefferson saw 184 targets. Kupp saw 191. Michael Thomas 185. These are like video game numbers we're asking these players. So the team level success is a way to kind of go through and say who's going to win 10 plus games. Like you have to be both of those at the same time. So at the top of the board is Saquon and Jamar Chase and Jahmyr Gibbs. And then there's kind of a gap for Bijan, Nico Collins, Justin Jefferson, Derrick Henry. I do like some of these bets for somebody like Puka at 20-1 and CeeDee Lamb at 20-1. I think they're both interesting to see crazy volume and end up in that same tier of the wide receivers I mentioned. Those are the Puka and CD are like the, they're not values, but I think there's a spot on the board where I'm willing to bet those guys.
Yeah, I think they should be priced next to Gibbs and Bijan, like kind of in that little tier there. So to me, they are not mispriced. I guess that's not the right word, but they're just, I think their odds are pretty good for the obviously level of talent they are in the upside case. And it's kind of funny, like looking back at the award winners, like these are guys that we are drafting every year in the top 10, top 12 of fantasy drafts. Like it's pretty strong correlation here for the most part. And, CeeDee Lamb, we are obviously very bullish on. Puka's a first round pick in fantasy. Like you can see a path for both these guys just dominating targets, putting up 1,500 plus yards and 10 scores. Looking at our projections in the UDK, they are right up there. We currently have CD for just under 1,500 yards and 9 touchdowns in the Ultimate Draft Kit. So checks the box. And obviously Puka last year was incredible. Led the league in yards per out run. Now, target competition, I guess, in theory, did get more difficult with Devontae Adams. That's the only, quote unquote, hole you could poke in this argument. But he is an ascending player, still super young in his prime. I think Puka's an awesome bet. I think CeeDee Lamb is an awesome bet. I'm also into McCaffrey at 22-1. Again, just if he's healthy, if the Niners are as good as we hope and kind of think they could be, it's a little bit of a natural hedge off of the Brock Purdy ticket. So basically, it's like, what would be incredible, Kyle, is if they both win. But it's a little bit of a hedge off the Purdy ticket, too. So, I will be placing, I think, Puka and CD at these prices and McCaffrey at the top of the board. Not that the other guys are bad bets, but, I think Saquon's a bad bet. Just historically doesn't repeat. We talked about some of the concerns with Philly's regression this year. So outside of Saquon, like you could literally convince me of any of the top 10 names and it would make sense. But I think Puka, CD, and McCaffrey are my plays as of now.
Yeah, you play best ball, you play fantasy, you look at this list and go, oh, these are first round picks.
Yep.
Like these are the guys at the top. I wanted to throw out Drake London, not as a Falcons fan, but as here's how much he was targeted by Michael Penix. It's really hard to use the two final games. The one before was the Giants game. It was nothing, but 2 final games, Michael Penix. He had 293 receiving yards, most in the NFL. He had 48% of the team's first read targets and was targeted on 42% of his routes. That was tied with Puka for number 1. So if he sees that type of usage, I don't care if it's Drake London on the Falcons or whatever wide receiver on whatever team, that is something worth exploiting at 50-1. And I know that we talked about Drake London last year, but he could be somebody of this list. He could be somebody that sees 170 plus targets if he stays healthy. What do you think about Genty at 60-1? I was thinking about it with first round draft picks and then who's kind of like further down the list, and Genty doesn't align.
Yeah, I think that's one that I think is a tough sell just from a team level success standpoint. We did take over on their 5.5 wins, but winning 6-7 games is obviously a very different conversation than pushing for 10, 11 wins, 12 wins in the NFL. And obviously we think the Raiders are going to be way better than they were last year, but still not a top tier team, I would say. So I probably won't make that wager. However, when you look at our projections and his usage and touches, I think it makes all the sense in the world. Genty is a pretty heavy favorite for offensive rookie of the year if you wanted to just kind of take, I guess, a safer outcome there. But for me, I don't think I'll play it, although I definitely get the argument and it makes sense from the pricing standpoint.
All right, your long shots you have here are 2 guys that, well, it makes sense that you're going to talk about Rashee Rice for the 38th time in a row. And then Ladd McConkey, who are both 90-1. If this happens, let's just say that it's one of these 2 guys from the AFC West that is the offensive player of the year. Does that mean their quarterback is MVP?
I'd have to think about that. I mean, there's obviously a correlation just in team level success, so maybe. But yeah, to me, it's just, again, the type of wager where you're like, I could totally see this. This price makes 0 sense, which means it will not win. However, $5, $10, I mean, come on. For a player who is just, whenever he's been on the field in Rashee Rice, is dominating in fantasy. So much production. If the Chiefs do get back to this explosive pass game and they do limit Travis Kelce's snaps, which they said they were going to do last year and they couldn't because Rashee Rice got hurt and Hollywood Brown got hurt. If Rashee Rice is just that dude and the recovery looks to be going as according to plan, I think 90-1 is just a misprice based off team level success. The same is true for Ladd McConkey. 90-1 for a player who was off the charts last year. 1,100 yards in 16 games as a rookie while playing through injury last year. Remember, he was on the injury report with his knee for like 6 weeks in a row or something like that. Averaged 2.59 yards per out run. That number was 4th among all qualified wide receivers last year for Ladd. So I think he is a legit dude in the league. And, you know, people are excited about Trey Harris. We like Trey Harris. Quentin Johnson was quietly pretty good last year. But it's like, man, if Herbert is going to have success and, you know, he's efficient, it's going to be because of Ladd McConkey. So I think Ladd is a guy who could surprise a lot of people. I struggle to see like the 180 target upside. That's the only concern for me. But just, again, looking at pricing, it's like 90-1. He should not be this far down the board for his level of talent and obviously great quarterback play. So for me, I think those guys are both a fun sprinkle. I also threw out here on the list, I like AJ Brown's price, especially on Bet Rivers if you have access there, 50-1 compared to 40-1 on DK. It's mostly just how I'm approaching the Eagles this year, which you guys have heard me say this a lot. I just don't think that they're going to have as much success running the football as far as their positive game scripts go. And so if he is able to see more volume, it's just a talent play on a good offense where he could just see, you know, more volume than the public thinks. And for context last year, this is per Rich Rebar, who does awesome work. In the first half of games, A.J. Brown was tied for the 5th most targets per game in the first half, right? In the second half, they're up by 2 scores. Just give it to Saquon. Let's get out of here. So if they're forced to maintain their pass rate, which in the first half of games was neutral, like right around 50% as far as the league average, if they just maintain that or just push a little above it, I mean, A.J. Brown could definitely push for 130, 140 targets, and he is just a dude when you give him that type of volume. So yeah, for me, A.J. Brown's a play at 50-1. Rashee Rice is a sprinkle. Ladd McConkey is a sprinkle. But for me, it's those guys at the top that make the most sense.
There's probably too much of a gap between Saquon and A.J. Brown for that team and the way that we're projecting them to function in 2025. And we've talked about leaning into the pass game. He's off the charts in so many different categories, and he's been that way for years. A.J. Brown is just an efficient player. A.J. Brown could have 16 touchdowns. Like if he has a full season, 4.53 yards per out run against man is bully stuff. That's just pushing kids into lockers and saying, "Hey, you don't belong here. You don't need to hang out with me." All right, let's talk about offensive rookie of the year. Last year was Jaden Daniels, C.J. Stroud, Garrett Wilson, Jamar Chase, Justin Herbert. The last 5 years, a tight end has never won this award, which is amazing considering the influx of really good young tight ends in the NFL. And I'm looking at this year's crop, and Ashton Jeanty is the betting favorite at plus 250. Then it's Cam Ward, who's really the only quarterback we're really talking about, although Tyler Shuck is at 10-1. I feel like, man, how do I say this? It's either going to bite, like somebody's going to play this clip later, or we'll never remember it, but I can't do it.
No.
So quarterback-wise, it's Ward or bust. Shedeur Sanders at 20-1. I know that the books are just like cleaning up on that.
Oh, my
They're
goodness.
getting random people to bet that.
These prices are absurd. Shedeur Sanders is 20-1. He might start 3 games this year, or not even make the team. Quite
Will
honestly.
Howard is 25-1.
Right. Will Howard has shorter odds to win the award than Jackson Dart, who was a first-round pick, which is crazy. Emeka Ibuka is a first-round pick. Like these prices are wrong, essentially. So, I mean, Jeanty, obviously, you could see it. Cam Ward, you could see it. This is not a team-level success award. Like you've seen rookie quarterbacks just start every game of the season and have pretty good production and win the award. Now, we have seen guys like C.J. Stroud win it, and obviously Jaden Daniels, and they had team-level success. I don't think anybody's excited about the Titans from a, oh my goodness, they won 10 games, nobody saw that coming, standpoint. So Cam Ward's kind of fairly priced, I would say. I'm not really into it personally. Tyler Shuck is a crazy price. Tedrow McMillan at 15-1 I think is okay. But for me, the one that I look at the board and I'm like, I don't know, I could paint a picture for a lot of these guys, but like to me, I might just take a flyer on Ibuka. He was a first-round draft pick. He's 40-1. There's a couple outs to him being awesome this year. The Bucs are great. Baker continues to play well. Chris Godwin's ankle isn't necessarily right to start the year, and he forces his way onto the field. Mike Evans at 32, 33 years old might take a small step back. Like, there's just, I think, paths to Ibuka being, in hindsight, being like, wow, he was 40-1 when Will Howard was 25-1, right? So just it's more of a value play to me. I think the top of the board just makes a lot of sense, though. So it's not really a market that I'll be heavily invested in this year.
Yeah, I would bet Travis Hunter right now at 10-1. I think that's mispriced for who he is in the modern NFL as this enigma, an alien, and we've never seen anybody like this before. So the new and novel approach, you won't have to use the same counting stats that you used before because of the way they'll talk about him impacting the game is on both sides. Who knows how much he'll play on defense? But I think that's a misprice for the second overall pick in the draft, that they just gave the most guaranteed money ever for somebody who's not a quarterback. I feel like he should be more like 5-1. So I think there's a little bit more room there. So I don't mind Travis Hunter as the chalkier type play. I did write down Tyler Warren. There's a first time for everything, right? I do think that the Colts, you brought this up a couple times this offseason, if they're better than what we think they are, this player should not be 40-1 behind Dylan Gabriel. I'm sorry. That's insane to me. Even looking at some of these other guys, Matthew Golden, even Loveland, like he should at least have the same price as Loveland, because I think we would both say that Tyler Warren is probably going to see more targets than Loveland.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with that take, just because
I think he's definitely going to see more targets than Warren.
Oh, should we have a little side bet on this? Just
straight up targets?
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know where the water bet button. I'll find it right now.
Okay,
but yeah, that's I'm shocked. But I also know that you've abandoned him.
Yeah, Tyler Warren was so last year at Penn State, dude. I mean, come on, we're moving on. I mean, obviously I can see it, right? Like, dude is a alpha level football player. For me, when I look at the market though, in kind of this area, those prices definitely are mispriced. Warren, for how far down he is, 14th pick in the draft. and Emeka Egbuka at 40-1. Both those guys, I think, are fun sprinkles.
I can't find the drop, but just imagine Betz and I made a bet. I'm saying that Tyler Warren sees more targets than Colston Loveland. And I don't know what you've been doing if you've been looking at the Ultimate Draft Kit, because we have projections in there.
Not a huge fan of it, honestly. I don't use it very much.
We got to make sure that I'm actually right about this. Oh, man. Oh, dang it. Some of them they're back and forth. All right. Well,
I think it's like a coin flip, honestly, for those two guys, for who was seeing more targets this year.
I think you're going to see more Cole Kmet than we want on the field.
It's possible, especially if, like, Loveland is still dealing with the shoulder recovery, and I almost guarantee he's going to start the training camp on PUP, which is not the same as the season. Which, by the way,
that's so soft.
In best ball, oh brother, we are scooping up the Q tag. He will fall a bit, and as soon as we get any sort of, like, I don't know, man, Loveland might not be ready for the first day of training camp, he will fall in ADP. So for best ball, like, I'm excited about that. But yeah, man, I think both guys are just talented, fun upside. I mean, the tricky thing is the tight end has never won the award, and Brock Bowers was amazing last year. So will it ever happen?
He picked the wrong year to do it in.
Will it ever happen? I don't know. But yeah, 40-1 on Egbuka and Warren are fun long shots.
All right, next one is Comeback Player of the Year award. We mentioned this earlier. You cannot come back from just being really bad at the game. The criteria, I'm going to read it to you, was changed in 2024. It is players coming back from, quote, illness, physical injury, or other circumstances that led him to missing playing time the previous season. So you had to have missed time because you were sick or injured, or other circumstance, which is quite vague. I guess you need to do that. Last year it was Joe Burrow. 2 years in a row with 2 or 3 of the last 4 years, a Joe won the award. Flacco, Burrow twice. So you tell me. I'm going to look through all the Joes and see who's up next.
I love that Deshaun Watson is on this award at 35-1. I think his career is over, sadly. Or not, maybe not sadly. I don't know how people feel, but he should not be where he is. There are definitely some mismatched numbers in this market as well. Also, the books are just mean, dude. Tank Dell is not even playing a snap this year, and he is also currently eligible to be bet. Well, which do not bet. Do not give the books more money.
But maybe.
You're saying there's a chance. Actually, no, I'm not, because he was already placed on season-ending IR. So yeah, this is just one of those where the books are being mean. Do not bet those. Looking at the top, Dak's the favorite. Aiden Hutchinson is also tied for the shortest odds, which makes a lot of sense. Those guys both coming back are on track with the recovery. Christian McCaffrey's right there. He looks healthy. I guess for me, I think those prices make sense. I would personally not be playing anything in this kind of like middle tier. Like, I don't think Brandon Ayuk is going to be healthy enough throughout, like, for enough of the season to be productive and win the award. So I'm not on him. You know, Nick Chubb at 25-1 is certainly not a bet for me based off his career arc. No on Anthony Richardson. No on Diggs. You know, that's kind of like I don't love it. So I don't have a lot of strong takes here. I think the top of the board is fairly priced and makes sense. Shocker, I think Rashee Rice at 12-1 is interesting, but you know, you guys already know that by now. So yeah, I don't have a ton of takes here. I think the top of the board is fairly priced, and those are the guys that should be favored.
Yeah, I'll throw in Trevor Lawrence at the top. Plus 450 is another easy candidate to say, oh, they're better than what we thought. You know, this team's a lot better. They won their division. He had a good season. You know, all those things kind of make sense. The lower down the board, though, is Tua at 35-1, Daniel Jones at 40-1 if they win the division. That's kind of interesting. Chris Olave is at 50-1. He just basically needs to stay on the field and be great. But because this is a narrative award, you are thinking about writers and media members and the story that they get to spin about who this player is and the impact they had on their team and on the NFL. You know, Joe Flacco played, half a season, and yet he was the story down the stretch of somebody. So, I don't know. I think Daniel Jones is a fun long shot if he's their starter the whole season.
But the problem is he's kind of coming back from just not being...
He was injured.
Great. Last year?
Yes.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was.
What was his injury?
Daniel Jones was out for a while.
I mean, he moved on from the Giants and then just sat on the Vikings bench.
I thought he got hurt.
No,
Maybe I'm wrong.
They just moved on, I'm pretty sure. Maybe in the early part of the season, but he's not coming back from season-ending injury or anything like that. So that's why I think Daniel Jones fits the old category of like...
Oh, I'm confusing his neck injury.
Yeah, from a couple years ago. Yeah. So for me, for Daniel Jones, I think he's the Sam Darnold of last year, where...
That makes more sense.
Technically, he's not really coming back from anything that kept him off the field other than just his time in the NFL might be running out. So I don't think I'll play that one. And the only thing I'll ask you on Tua is, yes, he missed time with concussion again last year, but he came back before the season was over. So do you feel like that skews the
And
voters?
He did miss, though, the final two games?
Yeah, hip injury to end the season. Do you feel like that skews voters? Like if he had a concussion injury, in like week 13 and he missed the rest of the season and the Dolphins just fell off because of that, and then this year they came back and they won 11 games or something, I could talk myself into it, but I'm not sure how that skews voters' perception if he comes back before the season's over, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can see that. I think the narrative part of the award is that the Dolphins have been figured out, and they were really... It helps that they were bad, though, last year, and in terms of the psyche of what people are, and the fact that if there's a player that's the poster child of being injured and not completing a full season, it's Tua.
Sure.
So, I'm trying to think of anybody else in this tier that, like, I'm not really interested in the defensive guys. It just, once you start getting a lot further, it's just like random dart throws at players. Like Hollywood Brown came back last year.
Right.
In the Super Bowl. Rashid Shaheed would be a really fun one for us who play best ball, but it's not going to win the award.
Yeah, I mean, now that we talked through it, I probably won't be betting this. I think it's just kind of the guys at the top, and there's obviously not a lot of value there.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back with some more.
Raise the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
All right, last couple categories we are going to finish this episode with is Coach of the Year and then players to lead the league in certain yardage categories. So for Coach of the Year, it is defined as the head coach adjudged to have had the most outstanding season. And here's how I interpret that, Betz. Maybe it's different for you. Historically, who did we not expect to make the playoffs with double-digit wins?
Yep. Or had to deal with changing circumstances, adversity in season, and still had a successful year. Which is funny because when you think about like MVP, it's, we kind of just talked about it. It's like just bet the best teams, the quarterbacks on the best teams. And in this market, Andy Reid and Nick Sirianni, are the longest shot odds to win. So it's kind of counterintuitive, but you need team level success that people didn't see coming, basically is how I would say it. Which it kind of makes for a fun discussion. You get to call your shot on who you think might be better than the market suggests.
We do have a 2-year run of Kevins. So you tell me.
Kevin O'Connell, Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, I mean, what trends? Somebody's going to point this out and use it as a data point. It was Brian Daboll, his first year with the Giants. Mike Vrabel, who is he's actually tied with Ben Johnson as the betting favorite right now, but Mike Vrabel won it a couple years ago. McVay won it his first year because as a young coach, no one really thought that he would be the guy. Don't forget, Matt Nagy won this award in 2018.
That is so funny to think about in hindsight. But I mean, the Bears had some nice years back then.
Yeah, Trubisky, I think they had a 12-win season.
Allen Robinson, yeah, man.
The crew. So looking at the list, Vrabel and Ben Johnson are the betting favorites. Then Liam Cohen, Sean Payton, Pete Carroll, Matt LaFleur, Jim Harbaugh, Dave Canales, Aaron Glenn. Any of those stand out to you as like the chalkier names?
You know, it's tough. Like, for me, if I'm looking at one of these teams that the market is not expecting to be very good at all, like, you know, Sean Payton's up there, but like, I think people think the Broncos are going to be pretty good. Matt LaFleur's up there. The people think the Packers are going to be pretty good. Harbaugh, the Chargers are, you know, a good team. They made the playoffs last year.
The Broncos and the Chargers have to win that division. They can't just like repeat as a playoff team.
Yeah. The team that like I could squint and see kind of the narrative for it is Dave Canales, where it's like if Bryce Young actually does take another step forward in his third season and they get the right side of variance on the defensive side of the ball in terms of their health, they were super affected by injury last year defensively. They've got the 7th easiest strength of schedule. It's a pretty weak division. Like if chaos happens with the Bucs or something, I think Canales will get a lot of the credit for Bryce Young's resurgence and turnaround. So maybe they win 8 games and kind of surprise people. I think that's potentially an option at 18-1. But other than that, I don't have a lot of strong takes. I actually kind of like what you put down here on the doc, so I'll let you share yours. But for me, Dave Canales, I think, is interesting.
Yeah, Pete Carroll is at 17-1. I think it's kind of riding what we've talked about with the Raiders, just being better than what people think. And the narrative in place is this team was so bad last year, the culture, everything else, that here comes this old coach that everyone loves, right? Everyone loves Pete Carroll. And here he is on his last hurrah, coming in, changing the culture. They're a playoff team with Geno Smith. New quarterback, new running back. I mean, the team feels brand new in a lot of ways. They do get Max Crosby back. So I think there's a narrative in place there of just what the media members and what this team is at as they're better than what we expected. Now, winning the division, I think we're just going to rule that out compared to the other teams in the division. But let's say they get to 8-9 wins. I think that's on the table, and it's better than what people expected. So he's kind of my favorite of that top tier. I like Matt LaFleur because I like the Packers this year too. He's just priced appropriately.
Yeah, and that the tough part though is kind of like I mentioned is like people think the Packers are going to be pretty good, so
they need to win the division.
Yeah, they got to really win the division.
13 games or whatever.
I see you have it here as a long shot, Shane Steichen. I could buy this. Sell me on this.
This is him saving his butt because if they don't make the playoffs this year, he's out.
Probably.
He's gone. So at 25-1, I'm interested in a winnable division. Like I think we would say that there's a real shot. We would say the Texans are the favorite, and the Jaguars and Colts are on the door that it wouldn't shock us if they won the division. So if the team is way better, the defense needs to get way better, especially about limiting big plays. But I think that there's enough there that he will get credit, especially as an offensive guy that was ahead of the league, or at least felt like he was ahead of the league for a little while. And now it feels like they've kind of slowed things down. But I think he's interesting in that middle tier.
I actually really like that take, just because, like, thinking about like what happened with Kevin O'Connell last year. Sam Darnold was left for dead. Everybody made fun of, like, how's this ever going to work? Darnold's terrible. And if he got his career on track and had a successful season, it wasn't because, I'm not saying Sam Darnold didn't play well. He played great last year. But a lot of
Kevin O'Connell got more credit.
The public perception was Kevin O'Connell saved Sam Darnold. And look, I'm not sure how good Daniel Jones is going to be this year. I think the most likely outcome is that he's who he's been. But if he surprises people and he holds off Richardson for the entire year and he's playing on this 1-year deal to save his career, no disrespect to Daniel Jones, but he will not get the credit. It will be Shane Steichen. Look at this scheme. Look at the system. He put him in a position to succeed. We're really surprised. They won 10 games and stuck in the playoffs. Again, the division is not great. I could see them being a wild card team if things break right. They made some improvements on defense as far as the personnel. So I actually think Shane Steichen is probably my favorite play now that we talk through it at 25-1.
Yeah, this is the difference. So Kevin O'Connell won it last year. They obviously won 14 games, and nobody saw that coming. Where on the opposite side, it was like Dan Quinn. Nobody thought that team would be good, but the credit went to Jaden Daniels, and he won Offensive Rookie of the Year because he was a highly drafted player. We expected him to be at least good, maybe not this good and great. So Dan Quinn, I think any other year would have been in the mix, and now you look at this year, and because everyone expects Washington, like nobody's going to bet Dan Quinn to win, Coach of the Year this year.
Yeah.
Poor Dan. He did a heck of a job, backwards hat man.
Dude, they were awesome last year. So fun.
Yeah, just pick the wrong year. All right, last couple of categories is a more projections-based conversation of who is going to lead the league. You can find this on places like DraftKings of most regular season passing yards. Joe Burrow is the betting favorite. He won last year with over 4,900 yards. We can actually go through and look at our projections in the Ultimate Draft Kit. I'm taking Andy, Mike, and Jason's average, and then I'm also looking at the DK odds right in front of me and kind of spot a couple of outliers. So we're not going to be betting guys at the very top, Burrow. I think Dak is fine as you can do this, but I think we got a better price, right?
I have not taken this yet, so I'm probably going to play it. He is 12-1 on Bet365. If you have access there, he's 10-1 on FanDuel. So again, get the best price whenever you can. He is plus 850 on DraftKings. So, 12-1, I'll play that on Dak. We talked about this in our best ball preview type stuff. It's like, is the offense going to be built through Dak, CD, and Pickens, or is it going to be this hodgepodge group at running back? It's going to be the pass game, right? Brighton Schottenheimer, people are all worried about like how good is he going to be as a head coach. I share that sentiment. But if you remember his days in Seattle, like they kind of let him go because he was throwing too much. Do you remember that? And we all wanted let Russ Cook movement to happen, and it kind of was, but then Pete Carroll like pulled back the reins. So I think Schottenheimer's DNA is to throw the football. And look at the personnel, it's going to be through Dak. So obviously Burrows should be the favorite. I think the defense is going to be terrible again. I think the Cowboys defense could really struggle this year as well. So yeah, 12-1 on Bet365, or if you got FanDuel 10-1, Dak is a play for me.
One of my favorite values based on our projections is Tua, who led the league just in 2 years ago, right? In 2023 at over 4,600 passing yards. The biggest issue with Tua is that when you look at the type of reads that he had last year, 71% of his throws were first reads. Only Trevor Lawrence, Will Levis, and Anthony Richardson were higher. So it was like kind of predictable. And his deep throw rate was cut in half. It was 10.5% in 2023. Last year was a league low 5.5%. Something has to change. We're not expecting the Dolphins offense to be the exact same as it was last year. And maybe it's not the same as it was those awesome 2 years when McDaniel started. But Tua is projected on average in the Ultimate Draft Kit for the 5th most passing yards, and yet his odds are 22-1. So I think Tua gives us a little bit of value.
For sure. And I also want to point out too, Mike Clay does his like unit rankings. You guys have heard me reference that. He's got the Dolphins defense 21st in the league. So if you think that that is potentially right, that they're a bottom 10-ish unit, then they could be a shootout team again. And what if Tyreek Hill isn't washed? I mean, there's definitely ways where this hits. So yeah, I think Tua is definitely a play at those odds based just using our projections, right? Like it's just a misprice relative to what we have in the UDK. So I'm in on Dak. I am in on Tua.
Yeah, and the other way you can look at this, like you mentioned, is I'm looking at somebody from our projections, and I'm looking at, do they have a bad pass defense to like couple with it? So like Baker was one of those guys last year that you could have pegged and got really close based on just looking at their units and how it works. So, a lot of the stuff is priced in based on team level success and the way that they're going to flow. And so Jordan Love's interesting. CJ Stroud, I don't think he's going to get enough attempts. I worry that the defense is going to be too good. Their pass defense was awesome in the second half. So Stroud is somebody that we like for a bounce back, but I don't like in these types of markets. I see some wild stuff here for like Caleb Williams. Josh Allen also is not priced accordingly. Like the fact that he is 15-1, it doesn't line up with our projections at all for him to have the type of season. Like he's never led the league in passing yards.
Yeah, and it's not that he's obviously not great because he's incredible. It's just that the offensive identity has shifted. You know, Diggs is gone, obviously, and we saw last year they had major issues in the wide receiver room. I don't know if they fixed that or not, but it seems like the identity under Joe Brady is going to be this rushing heavy attack with a wide receiver committee. I just don't think he has the guys to kind of help that game script type of play out. So I think he's overpriced is kind of what you're saying.
All right, most regular season rushing yards. Right now, Saquon is the betting favorite. Then it's Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor. Really, honestly, if you go through this list, you go, well, these are the dudes. These are the guys that I would guess to do this. It is interesting to look year to year about who led the league. So Saquon was last year with over 2,000 rushing yards. Year before, Christian McCaffrey, 1,459. So there's a big gap between that. Josh Jacobs was at 1,600 the year before that. I'm really shooting for who's going to be able to have 1,600, 1,700 rushing yards for a team that should be somewhat successful, right? If you're going to run the ball that much, your team needs to be successful. Anybody from our projections that stands out?
Yeah, when you're looking at this, it's like true bell cows, right? Like it's the guys. It's who you would expect to be favored in this market, and I think they're deserving. The only one that I would say is a potential mismatch in terms of our projections relative to cost, you can get Kenbone Walker at 55 to 1 to lead the league in rushing. 55! There you go. And really what it comes down to is just the identity under the new OC, Clint Kubiak. Ryan Grubb got fired basically because they were throwing too much last year. This team won 10 games last year, and they were like, you know what, Gino? I'm sorry. We're going to move on from all their guys, Metcalf and Lockett, and their identity now is defense, which was very good down the stretch, struggled early, but under a new system, you would expect that. I think the defense could be great again, and I think the offensive plan is going to be to lean on the ground game and kind of win that way. So for me, Kenneth Walker, 55 to 1 is a fun long shot. Other than that, I think the top of the board just is fairly priced and makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm not really going after this market very much. I think Achane is a little interesting at 45 to 1 if you think the Dolphins figure it out and just have an outlier season. But the dudes are the dudes at the very top. I probably won't be betting this market whatsoever. I mean, I just even go down the list. I'm like, well, everybody's priced where they should be. All right, I think I like this market the most of these is receiving yards. It's Jamar Chase, Nico Collins, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Neighbors, Puka. It's like these are all the guys at the very top. But you're looking at somebody that can hit 1,700 plus yards. That's where Chase was last year. Tyreek the year before. Justin Jefferson, Cup's monster year. That's what you're looking at. And based on that, are you willing to bet these? Because I think all of these guys should be priced pretty much the same. Like Chase is the favorite because he did it last year, but I don't see a huge gap between him and CeeDee Lamb, and yet, 6 to 1 or 10 to 1.
Yeah, this is kind of what I was referencing with some of the offensive player of the year type stuff. It's like, these are the guys. Like, you kind of have to have a high talent profile. You've got to be super efficient. You've got to be able to, be one of the top 5 or 6 players in terms of fantasy at wide receiver, at running back. So that's why for me, these markets are kind of tough because I think they're somewhat fairly priced. It's not very easy to pick off prices here. So, I mean, yeah, I think Puka should be closer to Jamar Chase than he is. So I guess relative to that, he's a value for me. Same thing with CD. I think that makes a lot of sense. We've talked about both those teams. Jefferson, I mean, he should be neck and neck with Jamar Chase, in my opinion. So I guess there are small values here, but there's not one that I'm like, dude, can you believe this 50 to 1 price on this guy? So I think they all make sense. I have not bet anything here, but to me, I like your takes with CeeDee Lamb and Puka Nacua.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back through, and I know we're kind of looking backwards and confirming a lot of stuff, but all of these guys that have won this, they were the guys in fantasy who were drafting in the first round.
Yep.
They're the guys in best ball that you were going for. Imagine that. I do think if you're trying to just guess on some outlier stuff, like Kupp was not a player that year who somebody's like, he was drafted around his teammate Robert Woods in best ball.
That's right. Yeah, that was which Rams wide receiver are you in on this year? That was a divisive summer. I remember that.
Yeah. So there are a couple of situations where you just have to bet on this team vastly outperforming their expectations. So if it is the Bears and you say Caleb Williams goes bonkers, Ben Johnson is the answer, we've seen DJ Moore have a season where he hit 1,300. You need him to hit 1,600, 1,700. And his price is okay at 50 to 1. Rome Odunze, though, 100 to 1. That's pretty wild if you want to go that direction. If I found another crazy long shot one. If you think Calvin Ridley gets like a 35% target share and Cam Ward is just a gunslinger, because that's who he is, 80 to 1 for Calvin Ridley.
I've made worse wagers in my life, Kyle. I'll tell you that.
Okay, good. I needed to make sure that I wasn't the craziest thing. One more, and I don't love the passing volume, but I do think Garrett Wilson could see 175 targets. And so at 40 to 1, I don't mind it.
Yeah, the tough thing for me is when you look at, and this isn't everything, but looking at Fields' passing lines in terms of like his season-long props.
Yeah, he's going to see 50% of the receiving yards for the team.
Right. It's like literally like 2,600 yards, like 14 touchdown passes. So, I mean, hey, if Garrett Wilson is at least 50% of that offensively, we're looking at, 1,300 yards, 7 touchdowns, which honestly I could see. So I don't think that's crazy. I just, the offense is pretty clearly going to be run heavy. Justin Fields has major issues as a passer, but Garrett Wilson is going to sleepwalk his way to a 30% target share in this offense. So yeah, I think the price is fine at 40 to 1. But you need him to go crazy after the catch. Kind of like what we saw with DJ Moore a few years ago in Chicago with Justin Fields.
Lad McConkey is at 35 to 1, and right now we have him for just under 1,300 receiving yards. So there is a little bit of value there, but I think the better bet is saying he is the offensive player of the year.
Yeah, if he has more receiving yards than Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, CeeDee Lamb, and Nico Collins, he probably is going to win offensive player of the year, don't you think?
Are you running a bet right now?
I mean, I already said I'm gonna put it 90 to 1 for offensive player of the year. Come on.
You're going to get a couple of people in our Discord that are like, I'm in with you, Betz. And you're going to call it an investment opportunity. But really what he's trying to do is get you to sign up for a timeshare.
This is, Kyle, you know what? This is so good. This betting, best ball, DFS, it's all about the friends we make along the way, Kyle. Nobody cares about the wins or losses, the profits. It's the friends we made along the way. And we're all going to be rooting for Lad McConkey for offensive player of the year. And you're going to be sad when you don't have that ticket.
Yeah, it's really fun when you can make friends and then not go into debt though.
That's true. We're all going to be poor, but together.
Okay. So, it just matters. What do you value? What do you value?
Do you like money
along the way?
Or friendships? Can't have both.
Betz and I have a couple of good shows coming up. Best Ball League winners. We will be off, by the way, for 4th of July. So if you're sitting around, you're looking for our episode, we will be celebrating with our families. I think this is like the first episode that has landed on a holiday like that in forever. So we will still have all of our stuff. We even had some really good articles coming out that are for DraftKings drafters only for best ball. So a lot of good stuff that we have. Make sure you check it out, ultimatedraftkit.com. Tell everyone goodbye.
Yes, I'm kind of sad we're not going to be back with the people next week, Kyle, but we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. When we get back, probably a ton to talk about in the best ball landscape with ADP shifting, all that sort of stuff, so it should be good. Make sure you get these wagers in. Enjoy 4th of July. Have a great weekend. See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.
Feel the electricity of the 2025 Honda Prologue.
The power.
Get power with quick acceleration from Prologue's electric powertrain motor. Feel the performance with smooth and responsive driving. Prologues, in stock now with a network of helpful Honda dealerships available for service. Drive a 2025 Prologue and save thousands with 0.99% APR. Prologue, powerful electric performance and available 0.99%.
The power.
Search your local Honda dealer today. See dealer for financing details. Financing on credit approval offer ends 7/7/25.
Support for this podcast comes from Progressive, America's #1 boat insurer. We've all made mistakes on the water, but there's one mistake you shouldn't make: being uninsured. With Progressive Boat Insurance, you can choose coverage for most mistakes you or other boaters could make, helping you float carefree all season long. Quote today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. #1 rating based on boat market share data from ratefilings.com.